Now, this is important as we start looking at these conversion metrics that we saw across the network. Now, remember that this data is all the way through May, the end of May. And so that's what you see in this graph, starting from the beginning of the year. Hopefully, we will be able to share this as things change through the rest of the year as well, as we track these changes. If you look at the biggest, I want to draw your attention to the purple line. That's health and wellness. That is the category that saw a pretty massive decline. You can see the line go down from 23 to 12%, so significant decline. If you look at beauty and cosmetics, it's a really interesting story. That's the orange line. You see that there was a dip, especially when we had the tariffs kick in March, but you see that it has recovered since. So it is one of those things where it's actually back to where it was in the beginning of the year. So the implications have somewhat gone away, and it'll be interesting to see what happens for the rest of the year. Now, in terms of household goods, again, a very similar story. It has recovered and it's now, pretty stable. And somewhat similar on the apparel and fashion category. It is still lower. There are implications in the apparel category, especially because a lot of those are manufactured in China. But what we also see is that some of the pricing strategies are making a difference in terms of conversions back up and increasing. Next slide. Okay, this one is conversion impact by country of origin. This is really interesting because it, again, tells a very different story. Country of origin, China to the US, that's the orange line. Pretty dramatic implication there. So this very much, is in line with market data that we're seeing shared broadly, but it's pretty dramatic to see the implications there. This is being imports into the US and essentially a country of origin, China and Hong Kong. And then the other lines are somewhat tempered. Yes, Maya?
Let's say, remember, this data, y'all, is when the 145% tariffs for made in China coming into the US. So just an important calibration. There has been some relief there, but just wanted to gently remind such a significant change is really because 145.
The last thing I will point to here is the purple line. This is country of origin US going to China. So there were some fluctuations, I would say, dips in March, again, when the tariffs were all over the place. And now there's been a recovery there as well. So that is interesting to see as well. So I'd say the takeaway here is that we're starting to see things stabilize and folks actually adapt to the tariffs, because ultimately, the biggest takeaway is that tariffs are here to stay. They're not going away. It is really about how can you adapt to changes like tariffs. There may be other changes in the global, landscape that happen, but really it's about, how can you be nimble and adapt quickly, as well as be resilient in the face of these changes. Next. This is, again, illustrating country of origin, China to the US, and in more detail, as well as US to China. You can see the recovery there is starting to happen. I think you'll start seeing that go up, actually, as we go into H2. Okay. I wanted to spend some time. I talked about some of those lines where we're starting to see recovery. One of those strategies that we've recommended and seen some really great results on is localized market pricing. So this slide actually illustrates an example of a vitamin and supplement product where, deeply understanding for the SKU what the duties, taxes, and fees are. In this case, it was 19 GBP. Which was the landed cost, if you will. It's the duties, taxes, tariffs, and any customs related fees. Because remember, there's a fee component as well. Because when you're bringing goods in, there is now a fee that's being applied. For example, if you're bringing in from China, there's a fee in terms of the carrier processing fees, if you will. So all of that adds up to your complete landed cost. And by including the landed cost into the product pricing, and in this example, they've actually included the shipping of 10 British pounds into the product price. By doing this, the customer actually saw a 13x higher conversion. So it is a really powerful strategy that we've seen employed across multiple verticals. We call this localized market pricing, and there's SKU-based recommendations that are leveraging network data, the FlavorCloud network data, to provide baselines and then kind of adapt it as tariffs change so that you as a brand are not eroding your margins. You're always staying protected. But at the same time, the consumer gets an all-inclusive cost and is not getting any additional bills after the fact. And this works really within the DDP realm, which is the delivery duties paid model, which we highly recommend. That's one of the ways you can mitigate the tariff implications.